viewers. Myself, Akshat Garg, Manager Research Choice, and today we have a very special and a very famous guest with us, Mrs. Radhika Gupta, the CEO of Edelweiss Asset Management Company. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, in our interactive session with the industry leaders, we talk about the hot topics in finance industry and try to find some learning for our viewers. Breaking the typical stereotypes in the so-called male-dominated field of finance, you came to India, left a high-paying job, formed a company, and now running Edelweiss AMC. So from your experience, what can be the potential drivers to increase women participation in this field?
Sure. So I think women participation in finance is actually, while it's not where we desire it to be, finance has actually been the front runner in terms of women's participation in corporate India. At one point, a large number of banks were run by women. Today, our regulator is run by a lady, our finance minister is a lady. So I think slow and steady progress is being made. And if you look at a younger generation of women today, I think more women are entering the workforce as far as finance is concerned. It's 50-50. The goal is now just to make sure that they don't drop off at the mid-level. To have more support groups, to have more conversations, and as more awareness about diversity is coming into offices, hopefully that will get better.
Okay, so I also follow social media and I observe that millennials are falling in love with cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, and our government has also levied a tax of 30%, but still not giving any clarity on its legalization. So do you think will it be ever accepted as a currency or an asset?
So firstly, my understanding of this is more limited than my understanding of mutual funds, but I'll give you my limited take on this. I think the government has made a couple of things clear. One is that this is a virtual digital asset, and anything that is in the name of currency will be what the RBI issues in the form of digital rupee. I think the terminology needs to be right. Secondly, merely by taxing it does not make it legal. So a lot of people assumed that because taxation came in, suddenly these assets became legal.
Right.
And my guidance to investors, especially on social media and other forms, is two things. One is when they invest, they should invest in asset classes which are regulated.
Okay.
And if it takes time for it to be regulated, that's important. But because you need an investor protection mechanism. Today when you invest in a mutual fund and if something goes wrong, you have a mechanism. Secondly, they should invest in an asset class that they understand. So, crypto assets have their own set of risks, and I feel a lot of people are investing just because they've seen a friend invest. So they should invest in things they understand.
Okay. So now coming to the markets, Nifty made an all-time high of 18,604 in October, but since then markets are very choppy. So what are your views on the markets in lieu with the current war and global scenario?
So last year we had, firstly it is I think very important to know that whether it is us or investors, you can't predict short-term market movements. And secondly, we had said that 2022 would perhaps be a year of two halves and the first half would be volatile. That's what we had said in a note last year. Obviously it's turned out to be significantly more volatile than one imagined. And we expect, I think, volatility to continue. Volatility is the nature of markets.
Right.
In fact, 2021 in some ways was a little bit of an exception. I think the challenge is a lot of new investors have come in over the last 18 months and they haven't seen periods like this. So I think that will continue. But hopefully, and what we've seen in the India trajectory is, and globally also, finally markets converge to long-term earnings potential. And so if some of this noise and news tides over in the first half of the year and earnings start to kick in, then perhaps the second half could be a period of slightly more stability.
Okay, but since pandemic, I feel like that I'm in a roller coaster ride. Markets are too volatile. So how do you think that Edelweiss Balanced Advantage Fund can smoothen the ride for the investors?
So I think people should realize that markets will be volatile. It is a feature of the market. It's not a mistake. And so we have to, and I'll come to the BAF question, we have to invest and prepare our portfolios for volatility.
Right.
I think one of the reasons I like balanced advantage funds as a category is they solve the basic need of most investors, which is to make more money than your traditional instruments, but manage volatility. So, I'll give you an example of Edelweiss Balanced Advantage Fund. In March 2020, when markets fell, substantially. I think markets were down 30% that month. The fund was down 12-13%.
Okay.
Now, what that does is, it's normal for investors to panic. We think we are long-term investors, but we panic. A sharper cut in the tough times, I think, keeps you going. And I think that's the power of balanced advantage funds. This fund, of course, has been a performance leader in the industry, has been a category leader. I personally also, invest substantially into the fund. And so I think it does a very good job of fulfilling that promise, giving you meaningful returns on the upside because it's investing when market health is good, and reducing your downside and cushioning it so that over the long term, your compounded returns are good.
Okay, so now I'm more keen to understand the principles on which Edelweiss's AMC is built upon and how it's adding value for the investors.
Sure. So I think AMC is a simple business. We are in the business of managing money responsibly, and we run different classes of funds. We run a team that manages long-only funds like mid-cap and small-cap, a team that manages hybrid funds like BAF, a team that manages fixed income, and then we have partnerships with teams like JP Morgan for international funds. In each of the baskets, we run a limited set of funds and very true to label funds. So, for us, it's very important that we clearly communicate what we do, and, we say what we do and we do what we will say. So, if we are running a mid-cap fund, we will run it like a mid-cap fund. If we are running a balanced advantage fund, which is a conservative fund, we will not take duration calls or credit calls. We are very process driven as a house. We are not fund manager driven as a house. So while we have very, very talented managers can come in and out, but the process remains intact. There is a process on the long only side called FAIR. There's a process on the hybrid side. There's a process on the fixed income side. And we stick to that. And I think the third is we want to set realistic expectations and communicate with investors. We are a young team and we are here to build a business for the long term. And we want investors to be with us for the long term.
Okay. Ma'am, before we conclude, I would like to say that I have always followed your journey. And recently, your book, Limitless, came. So what's in there for the readers and our viewers?
So Limitless was a COVID project, and it was it's not a personal finance. It is a book for young readers to hopefully help them on their journey as they navigate their career and the various very interesting opportunities that India gives them, and touch upon the difficult subjects that all of us go through in our journey, whether it is rejection or comparison, etc. And it's told through the lens of my own stories and some other examples and stories, and hopefully in a very warm, simple and easy to read way.
Okay. So viewers, today we heard from Mrs. Radhika Gupta about her views on various aspects. Hope you all have enjoyed it. Ma'am, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you viewers. Stay tuned.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.